One. And we are finally live, guys. Welcome to another episode of the We Think God is Awesome podcast, where we think God is awesome. My name is Aaron. I will be your host today. And we are joined by my special guest, Erick Anderson. Erick, say what's up.
Hello, everybody. Hi there out there in the world.
All right. Erick, we'll be interviewing Erick for his testimony. If it's your first time here, we interview people about what God has done awesome in their lives, typically how God saved them. And hopefully you'll be inspired or worship God more because of their testimony. It's really holy ground here where God has been in their lives. And so if you haven't already, give us a like on Facebook, join our group, invite your friends if they like to listen to Christian testimonies. And give us a hashtag replay if you're catching this on the replay. Erick is an awesome guy. And if you want to share this video with people who might have similar stories like Erick, I'm sure he would be willing to talk with them, speak with them, all that. Anyway, Erick, I don't know if I introduced myself. My name is Aaron. I'll be your host today. Erick, take it away. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? Where you been? How long you been a Christian? Some general information here.
Hi, everybody. My name is Erick Anderson. I'm 46 years old. I'd say I've been a Christian probably now for about 5.5, 6 years. Started off Roman Catholic, kindergarten all the way up to I graduated high school. Who am I? I'm a very complex individual. Aaron said that you may have something similar. I don't think so. I don't think many people have similar stories to mine. I'm a person who's kind of gone through the ringer more than once and kind of come out on the other side every time with a smile on my face. And it's not thanks to me, it's thanks to God. I really love this idea. I love the idea of being able to chat with you, Aaron. I love you. I love your wife and your soon-to-be family of 12 coming right around the corner. And I'm excited to do this because the whole principle, the whole idea behind it is keeping it real 100%. And you know that's at my core. So as we're going today and we're chatting today, you may find out some things about me you didn't know. And I'm okay with that because I really believe the man I am today is because of the things that I've been through in the past, my brother.
Awesome. Maybe tell us a little bit about how you grew up. What shaped what you believe in before you met Christ, like your life before Christ, basically. Tell us a little bit about that.
We call that the life WABC, with alcohol before Christ.
Oh, gotcha.
Before Christ. You know what? I grew up with an amazing family. My mom and dad were two amazing people. They worked their butts off to make sure that we had everything we wanted. My dad had 2 jobs. He was a police officer and a plumber. Mom was a registered nurse, director of nursing for many years, and she opened up her own business. They worked hours and hours. I got an amazing little sister, my sister Nicole. I don't know if she's watching. She said she would be. I hope she is. My family life was pretty spectacular. I can't be one of those people that says, well, I had a rough life and that's how come I turned out as rotten as I did. I had the support I needed. I had the love I needed. But my life before Christ was definitely a rocky road. I suffered from depression as a child. At least that's what it was labeled. They labeled me with major depressive disorder. They said I had bipolar. Come to find out many years later that really wasn't the case. I was suffering from addiction, alcohol and drug addiction. They put me on all these drugs for psychotropic drugs to help me out. And when I'd go to see the psychiatrist and the psychologist, I would leave out the part that I was getting high. I didn't think that was important, and that was my business, not theirs. So my life before Christ was, like I said, I was surrounded by love. I was surrounded by amazing friends, family. My next door neighbor, Louis LaCory, I grew up with him and his mom and dad. They were amazing. Kim LaCory and brother Frankie, I had a lot of friends and family. I just was kind of going through some turmoil in my life. I kept looking for something.
What made you had such a great home life, you said. What made you go into drugs and suffer from addiction and all that stuff? I don't see the connect there.
I was lucky to watch Adam came on I think it might have been your first interview, and he said it perfectly. He said he did something and he really liked it. And I remember smoking my first marijuana cigarette. They call it a joint, and I really liked it. I liked the way it made me feel. I think what it did for me was it dulled my senses. it kind of made me a different person. And then once I started smoking at the age of 12, that was it. I didn't stop. And I'm 46 years old, and I can tell you right now that I still love marijuana. It is the most amazing thing in the world. I haven't smoked. I'm 6 years plus sober, but I can never smoke marijuana again as long as I live. I know that I can't go near it.
So how'd you get like the funds to fuel your addiction, and where did that come from?
Mom and dad were very generous people. I
Really?
was very blessed. I had allowance. I didn't have to worry about anything, and whatever allowance they gave me, that's what I used it on. I used it on getting my drugs. Again, it wasn't back in the day expensive. It's not like it is nowadays. Back in the day, you could get, drugs for a relatively cheap price. And we loved to drink. On the weekends, we used to play the game quarters. I was the quarter champion, man. I would bounce that quarter right into the shot glass every time, man. So we play quarters and drink and smoke. And believe it or not, it was a lot of fun. I'm one of those people that looks back and says, oh, it was horrible. And, but that life was a big part of who I was, unfortunately, for many of my years.
How long were you addicted to all that stuff, and what kind of stuff were you addicted to?
My life, I basically my drug of choice is marijuana. I used alcohol. I used cocaine. I used that ecstasy drug once or twice. Didn't like that too much, and that was the younger generation thing. I think that didn't work out too well for me. But towards the end, I would use anything and everything that came in front of me. I was really miserable, depressed. October 12th, 2012 was the culmination of miserableness in my life. I was doing everything and anything. I had a little girl, her name is Chanel, God bless me with her. And I came up with this brilliant idea that I would work the day shift and I'd allow my wife to work the night shift. And I didn't like that decision after I made it. I never saw my wife. I got very depressed, started drinking very heavily. And, they say in life that you have to hit a rock bottom before you go on the straight and narrow. And sometimes you hit that rock bottom and they have what's known as a trap door. So you hit the rock bottom and then there's another trap door right below. And I had a couple of trap doors in my life. So I hit a couple of rock bottoms. And then the last rock bottom, and I want to share this story because this is one of the stories that began me on my journey to Christ. And
Wait, so before you do that, how long of a time period are we talking here?
For drugs and alcohol, the age of 12 to the age of 40.
Wow. And then when did this next trap door hit? What
The last trap door was probably going on for about a year or so. After my little girl was born, I was miserable. And it's crazy because it's because I love my wife so much and I wanted her to be in my life, and we didn't see each other. We were like two passing ships in the night. I'd come to work, she'd be going to sleep, and it just wasn't what I wanted. I don't blame her. I mean, we had to do what we had to do for the family. But when you are addicted, when you have this addiction and things don't go your way, you turn more into that addiction. It's just solace. If you don't have anywhere else to go, if you can't go to anything or anyone, you tend to keep getting higher and higher and higher, and you hit a rock bottom.
So you're talking like near 28 years, near 30 years.
You could do the math. I'm gonna leave that on you, but yeah, you sounds right. Because the majority of my life I was high.
Yeah. Okay.
My life was high. And listen, you hear people tell you these horror stories. I was working 2 jobs. I was what I thought was supporting my family, doing everything right. I remember when I hit that rock bottom and my mother had told me, listen, you need to go into rehab. I said, I can't. I have to take care of my family. I have to work. But the truth of the matter is I really wasn't taking care of anyone, because if I don't take care of myself, I don't take care of other people.
Okay. Yeah.
You don't see it. You don't see it.
So, okay. So tell us about this this other trap door here.
All right. So here we go. The trap door. Unbeknownst to myself, I actually recorded a suicide video. I don't remember making it. Put it on my phone, told the world and everybody that I'm done. It's over. Can't do this anymore. And this was on my phone. I found this about 2 weeks after hitting that rock bottom. I didn't even know I made the video. I'll explain a little bit more about that. So I kind of lost. I couldn't take it anymore, and I made the decision that life was no longer worth living. And I had been on prescription medication, Klonopin, which is like Xanax. Most people know what Xanax is. And I took about 20 or somewhat pills with a gallon of wine. And I didn't expect to wake up. That was it, you know. Lay down in the bed, and my wife came home from work later. And I woke up the next morning to my wife punching me and yelling at me, "Come on, you gotta go to work." So I stumbled out of bed, and I put on a pair of her jogging pants that said "Juicy" on the butt, no underwear, a pair of work boots, a jacket, a winter jacket, and this was October, so it wasn't necessary. And I kind of rolled out of bed. And I remember I grabbed the bottle, whatever was left in the bottle, and I took it, swallowed them down. And I made the decision that I was going to get in my car and I was going to jump off of the Verrazano Bridge. Verrazano Bridge is a bridge in New York. It's the longest suspension bridge. And you jump, you're done. And I remember getting in my car and driving. I was in the middle of the bridge, and I was driving nice and slow. And all of a sudden, somebody comes behind me and starts beeping the horn. Could have went to the left. They could have went to the right. There really was no reason. And I'm like thinking to myself, come on, pass me. And I'm looking for the right spot to pull over and jump off of this bridge. And this person is beeping and beeping and beeping and beeping. And I says, what the hell is wrong with this person? You know, I look back at that now and I know that was God. Because there's no coming back from that. You make that decision and you plummet off of that bridge, there's no coming back. So I got angry and I remember cursing and I ran, I stepped on the gas and I drove into New York and I drove to Staten Island. I went to my best friend in the world's house. Louis, I don't know if you're watching, but welcome to the podcast. So I went to Louis LaCorey's house and I went to his garage and I sat down and I said, life is tough. So what do? I decide to have some wine. So he breaks out some red wine for me and I'm in his garage drinking some red wine. And we started talking. And I think, if I recall correctly, I started annoying the living hell out of him. I think I was telling him that I needed a joint, I needed to get some weed, and he's like, all right, bro, you relax. And at some point, I think I just drove him to the point. He's like, all right, so go, get out of here, go get your weed. And that's all I remember. It was told to me by my friends that I said something along the lines of F the world, it's over. I got into my car, drove out like a wild man, came around the corner, and I took out a light pole. Went around another corner and took out my first parked car, came around this next corner, I was kind of doing a U-turn, I guess, and took out 2 or 3 more parked cars. I almost killed someone who jumped out of the way. And that's the scariest thing to me. My friend Louis said that I came barreling down the block, maybe doing 60, 70 miles an hour with 3 tires, sparks shooting out from the other one, staring straight ahead. They said I had a look on my face of just determination, I guess. And I took my car and I drove it into another parked car at about 60, 70 miles an hour. I was driving a Ford Expedition, crashed into another car. The car went vertical. Hit the other car, went straight up in the air. Should have flipped over. I should have died. There's no doubt in the world. Airbags deployed, and all of a sudden Erick woke up because those airbags have a tendency to wake you right up. And I got out of the car and I looked around, and there were people all around me, 20 or 30 people screaming at me, calling me every name in the book. And I had no idea what happened. That was that trap door. There was no more trap doors. There was nowhere else to go. Went into rehab thanks to my family. They urged me. Almost lost my wife. My wife actually called and reported the car stolen. She was done with me. Almost lost my family. Then Hurricane, I think it was Sandy, came through New York, destroyed it while I was in rehab. But I remember being in rehab and you say you get sober. This was October 12th, 2012. I remember that they asked me to give my testimony, very similar to what I'm doing here. And I kept saying, thank God I didn't kill anyone. And there was a gentleman in the rehab who says, you know, Eric, I've never heard you once say, thank God you didn't kill yourself. And I think that was my first day of sobriety, because I started to realize that I did care about myself. Sorry. That I had a lot to live for. You know, I had a lot to live for, and I didn't care about myself. I had no love for myself. And they kept telling me for the sobriety thing, you have to admit you're powerless and surrender it over to God. And I kept trying to do it myself. And it wasn't working out for me too well. So that was the beginning of my sobriety. And that was, I think, the beginning on my path to Christ. You know, that's where it got started, my brother.
Wow, that's amazing. That's an incredible story. Like how the taxi driver is like hugging you, could have gone past you up. It was just urging you along, just making it to your friend's house. And then, you even had the prior suicide attempt with the pills the night before. That all must have happened within like a 24-hour window, right?
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So that day right there was like probably the worst day of your life.
I'd have to say so. And that next morning when I woke up and my chest hurt from the airbags deploying and knowing my wife was done with me, not knowing if I had a family, the whole thing came slamming down like a lightning bolt, man. It was pretty intense.
Yeah. What possessed you to go run or drive around like a madman in that car? Was it another suicide attempt? Was it just?
Oh, it had to be. At this point in time, again, I have no recollection of any of that.
Yeah. Okay.
No recollection. I was in what you call a blackout state. You get to a point where you just can't do it anymore. Because if you're trying to do it yourself, you're going to fail every time.
Yeah. How old were you?
Myself.
How old were you?
October 12th, 2012. So I'm sober now for 6 years, about 40 years old. It was
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. It's hard to believe that was only 6 years ago, huh?
Yeah, you know what? It is. It is. And like I said, that was just the beginning in my journey to Christ. That sobriety is, I'm still struggling with sobriety each and every day.
Yeah.
I take it each day at a time, every day. I give myself a lot of accountability. On those stressful days, I'll look right at my wife and say, damn, I could use a Long Island iced tea right now. And I do that on purpose. I want everyone who loves me around me to know me that, hey, I'm not done with this. This is something that will be a real struggle with me for the rest of my life. It doesn't go away. You don't do it. But the truth is, I can't stop it. I need to surrender it to God. I need to surrender it to the people around me, the ones I love. And that's how I stay sober every day, man.
You said that was the start. What happened next? What's like the big move that happened next about that you could see God in?
You know, God has a plan for everyone.
Amen.
You don't see it. You don't know it. And I can tell you right now, don't try and figure it out. Don't bother. Because when you think you got it down cold, he's going to say, you don't have a clue, sir. And I know now why with the timing. I got sober in October, and I started my journey of becoming a better father, a better man. And I started going to church, dabbling. But if there was a good football game on, I was not going to church. If the Jets were playing, not this time. But I went, I was dabbling in that Christianity thing, and Reverend Mike, I don't know if you watched, I invited him as well. His church was awesome, a small group of people, and we would go, and it was church, man. You went, you were a church boy, and the message was there, and you go in the morning, you come out late in the afternoon, because it depends on how long it's going to take for that message. And, and I liked it, but I wasn't sold on the whole thing. But I know now why God needed me to be a better father, a better husband. In June, my son, D'Anthony, Chantel's boy, he was 19 years old. the eve before his 20th birthday. My wife and I had gone out and we got him a pineapple tart because he didn't like birthday cakes. And being 19 for a birthday present, so what do we get? And the best gift for a 19-year-old is money. So she said, let's give him 50. So I didn't listen. I pulled out $100. I said, give him $100. And I was going fishing the next day, and I remember I was in the living room on YouTube checking out my fishing knots because I was rusty. And I asked Chantal, should I invite D'Anthony? He says, he's not going fishing with you. So I was in my living room, and I was tying my knots, watching my YouTube, and the neighbor came into the house, ran into my living room and said, he's bleeding, he's bleeding. I'm a nurse, so I'm used to that. I'm used to one of the kids falling or something, they'd come in and nurse can help out. And I went outside and went around the corner, and there was a boy on the ground. And when I rolled him over, I realized it was my son, D'Anthony. And when I rolled him over, he looked in my face, and he had a look of terror and fear. That's a look I'm never going to be able to get rid of from my memory. I don't know if I want to. And I'm sorry, guys. I remember looking at his face, and then I looked down at his chest, and there was a big hole. D'Anthony was stabbed in his heart by a friend over jealousy, over girls. And I remember screaming, call 911 and put pressure on the wound. And, I'd done CPR 12, 13, 14 times. And, out of those times, I was able to bring people back and give them a chance to see their family. And I must have been the biggest bumbling idiot. I don't think I was doing things right. And so I started CPR on my son. And I remember he took his last breath into my mouth. And I still feel that breath. I still see that moment. And we lost our son that day. The hardest thing in the world was going to the hospital, and my wife followed behind. They wouldn't let her in the ambulance, and you could see she was kind of holding on hope. And she wiped my face, and I had some blood. And she said, "You're bleeding," and she said, "It's not my blood." And I knew that he was gone. I knew my boy was gone. I had to tell her, and it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. As a man, as a father, and I thank God that I was sober. I thank God that I had started my sobriety. And this was a tragedy that could have chased me right back to the bottle. This was a tragedy that could have chased me right back to the drugs. But I didn't. I knew what God needed me to do. He needed me to be a man. He needed me to be there for my wife and my family. I had to take care of things. I had to take care of my family. I had to take care of these boys that were looking for revenge. They wanted revenge. They wanted to go and they wanted to kill the murderer. They wanted to kill the murderer's family. There's a lot of anger, a lot of hostility. And Aaron, that day, that tragedy, that's what chased me into the arms of my father.
Wow.
I went back to that church, and Reverend Mike and the New Testament Christian Church, they were the most amazing group of people in the entire world. They were there for me and my family. They were there at the wake. They were there. They brought food. They brought water. He paid for the dinner. And this is a small church just starting out, struggling, but they knew what was about, what was important, how to do things. And his arm was around me in the videos when the news cameras were there, and they were interviewing me. And I started going back to church. I don't think I've missed too many Sundays since then. Football is no longer important in my life. I started to realize what's important. And I remember being in church, and I kind of had this debate and this going on in my life for a long time. When I came to Florida, I was working with Pastor Scott and Sunlight Community Church, and we were talking about God and everything. And I remember telling everyone, well, I remember being in church, kneeling down, and Reverend Mike put his arms on me and prayed over me, and I heard the voice of God saying, I want you to speak for me. Now I hear, it couldn't have been the audible voice, and then I have no clue. I have no clue what it was. I don't know if it was an audible voice, a voice in my head. But I realized right then and there that there was a special purpose that God had for me. This tragedy has a purpose. Again, I don't know. Don't try and figure out God's plan, because here we are 6 years later, and I'm starting to see what that plan was.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see some amazing things, but I'm happy to say that I love my family. I love my friends. They were such great support for me.
Yeah.
Everyone, my aunts, my uncles, my sister, my mother, everybody, my friends, Louie, Melissa, everyone, Norman, Michael, all you guys. I love you guys. All you guys were a great support system. Chantel's family was amazing. And then I came to Port St. Lucie, and I met this handsome guy you see over there, Aaron, Mr. Scott, and Sunlight Community Church. You guys were there for me when we first came here. You guys were. Bill, I remember him sitting down and chatting with me, and wow, that was pretty freaking awesome. And I've gone different paths, and God's put me on different ways. And like I said, God puts you and calls you to do things, and sometimes you just have to go.
Yeah.
And, you have to see where it goes. But I'm happy to say that talking for God, I'm glad I do it on Tuesdays with the youth group.
So was it the what was it like exactly? Was it the prayer? Was it the audible voice? Was it just going to church? Was it like a quick love? Like, did you fall in love with it, or did you? How was that spiritually for you? Like, what did you experience?
Well, I always say this, and you laugh at me. A lot of people say I get the Holy Spirit feeling. So every hair on my arm stands up. Get ready for it. My nipples get hard. Holy Spirit feeling, man. There's nothing better in the whole world. It's better than any high I've ever had.
Yeah.
Anything, man.
Yeah.
And you get that feeling, and I got that feeling. But it's everything. It's a combination. It's not just the voice. It's not just this. It's not just that. It's the sobriety. It's the love of your friends. It's that little Christian church and seeing all that. It's young people that I've been able to deal with and touch and love on, man. It's just everything all together. And I'm still going through this process. It's not. I'm not there yet. I'm not even where I want to be yet.
Yeah. So I'd like for you to speak to this maybe just really quick before we close out. A couple of things. Do you have anything to say with people going through sobriety, struggling with addiction? Do you have anything to say about that to them?
Absolutely. I would love to say this. Don't try and get sober. Don't try. You can't do it. Only God can do it. If you try and you say, today I'm going to do it. Today I'm going to put down the bottle. Today I'm going to put down the joint. Don't do that to yourself. We can't do it.
We don't have the power to do that in ourselves.
No, man, you don't. We are powerless over our addiction. You got to surrender to God. You got to cry. You got to lift your hands up in the air. And you got to say, I need your help. I can't do this.
Yeah. Isn't that like the first step?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Admit that you are powerless over your addiction.
That's important. That's big.
Yeah, and you talk about a step. You're talking about those 12 steps. Get your butt to a program. Get your butt to a program. Don't do it yourself. You can't do it.
Yeah, you can't do that. You need something. Yeah.
You need something bigger than you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. How about one more person I want you to talk to, and that's people who are struggling with the loss of a loved one, particularly parents with the loss of a child. Do you have anything to say to that?
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. Yeah, the one thing I want to say is that there are support groups. I didn't speak much about my wife, Chantel. She is the most amazing woman on the face of the earth. I thank God for her every day. I don't know what the hell she sees in me. Whatever it is, I'm glad she sees it. She's part of a group called Parents of Murdered Children. There is one branch right now in Fort Pierce. Look it up, POMC, Parents of Murdered Children. Reach out to me. I'll hook you up with Chantel. That was the purpose of the tragedy, or one of God's plans in our lives was, it's not for me. I'm not that Parents of Murdered Children guy. I don't find my solace there. I don't feel my support there, but it's an amazing group of people.
Okay.
She's going to go and become, member, an active member. She's going to the training, and she's looking to start a chapter in Port St. Lucie.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
yeah, man, because there's people out there. But there's support groups. Go to your church and just say, hey, I'm miserable. Help me. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah. Yeah. And one last question while we close up. Really grateful for you being on here. I mean, it's just a real big testimony of how God is working your life and He's been pull you through these things. Tell me, and this is how we're going to finish off every podcast, why do you think God is awesome?
I think God is awesome because I'm standing here talking to you, because I'm alive. God is awesome because Chanel Maddie Anderson, my daughter, is amazing. Shane Anderson and Kyle Anderson, and I don't deserve them at all, but he gives them to me. I think God is awesome for my wife. I think God is awesome for my friends and my family. I think God is awesome because I'm sober. I think God is awesome for my business, Lapstop USA, and it gives me the opportunity to love on people and be with people. Yeah. I got so much, and I do so little for it. I don't deserve any of the stuff I have. I am a rotten scoundrel, but I am so blessed. I have an amazing family. I have amazing friends. Man, thank you, God, for everything. I think God is awesome because He loves me.
Yeah.
I love somebody who's so broken, but He loves me.
Yeah. It seems like you feel that from like people too, like the people that God has placed in your life, the friends and family, like the church and the community and stuff like that, and family.
Aaron, God has placed people in my life that have made my life so much better and so different. When I started my business, I was lost and I prayed. I closed my eyes and said, God, I don't know what the hell I'm doing here. Yeah. Help me, help me, help me. And He sent this lady, Veronica Polabab, into my life, and my business has just flourished. And I go to youth group, and I'm there with people that I love, and all of a sudden this guy goes, hey, by the way, I do what you do. His name is Jeff. He's one of the youth leaders. This guy has been my best friend. He's right by my side the whole time. Like, what the heck is going on here? God puts these people into your life. Just open up your eyes and see where they are.
God seems to work through people for sure. Yeah.
Man, you just have to look for it, Aaron. We don't look for it. We don't appreciate it a lot of times. They say God doesn't talk to you. You know, you pray. God talks to you so loudly. We just have to learn how to listen.
Yeah.
It comes in the hugs. It comes in the people. It comes in everything, man. Just open up your eyes and see how He's talking to you, and your life will be so much better, man.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, Erick Anderson, it has been a true pleasure to know you as a friend personally, to have you on the team, and to now finally interview you and get your story just in video form on this podcast. Man, God is awesome. Thank you so much for being on here. Do you have any last words, any last things to say to anyone?
Aaron, I love you. I'm glad you're my brother. I can't wait to see what He has for future plans for me and you. Keep doing what you're doing, man. Keep doing what you're doing. You're touching so many lives, and this is what you're supposed to do. And anyone that watched it, thank you for watching. Get the word out about this. Let's start a movement. I think this is the beginning of a movement, keeping it real and looking at it, at what God does in someone's life and why is He awesome. So this is just the beginning. I think we should blow this thing up, man.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for tuning in and watching. Thank you, Erick, one last time. If you guys haven't already, share this video, like the page, share the group. The group is important because we're, like Erick said, a lot of the people, the community around him has helped him, and maybe we could help some other people too. Anyway, thank you guys for watching and listening, and we will see you guys next time. See you guys.